The core taxes that were collected by the Inland Revenue Services only dropped by about 1%. And revenue collection has actually almost doubled compared to when we first implemented TIMS. Before TIMS, it took months and months, sometimes more than a year, to close one case. Now, TIMS, our staff don't need to go out and try to look. The evidence is right there, because we want to automate as much as possible and reduce the risk of human error.
So the future is in pre-filing.
Yes.
Hi Theresa, welcome to Serbia. And we are so pleased to have you here. In our last interview when we met, you spoke about some insights around TaxCore, that is the TIMS, the Tax Invoicing Monitoring System in Samoa. And you shared some really good information that attracted a lot of interest from our partners and clients as well. And I want to just pick up from where we left off at the time, now that we are here in Serbia, and just to start with this revenue impact, which everybody is interested about. We implemented TIMS around, just at the outbreak of the COVID-19. And you said that there was a measurable impact. So was it before or after the launch that actually that impact took place? Where did you notice the revenue growing? Because fortunately, although the worst time in history for every tax administration, you were recording some good revenues at the time of COVID.
Yes.
Yeah, so what was the timing like?
Okay. So we launched the Tax Invoice Monitoring System in 2020 during a period that was just characterized by economic uncertainty and just heightened fiscal pressures. And my observation is that in terms of revenue growth, we started to see that around, it was about 2 to 3 years after implementation. But before that, there was actually a behavioral change and I like to describe it as a deterrence effect. And what I mean by this is because when we implemented the Tax Invoice Monitoring System, just taxpayers anticipating that their sales would be more visible and will be monitored by the ministry really changed their behavior in terms of declaring the right amount of sales or close to the right amount of sales that they were making at the time. And I say this because we launched that in 2020, and during that first year of implementation, there was an actual, Parliament at the time reduced our budget by 10% in terms of revenue targets because we anticipated a significant drop in revenue collection. Right.
Like everybody else.
Yes, like everybody else. However, interestingly, the core taxes that were collected by the Inland Revenue Services only dropped by about 1%. Can you believe that? And that is what I mean by just that deterrence effect and early compliance behavioral change amongst taxpayers. So that was definitely an interesting fact. And fast forward to now, it's been just over 5 years, going on to 6 years. And revenue collection has actually almost doubled compared to when we first implemented TIMS. So
at that time, you did, of course, there was a preparation before launch in March 2020.
Yes.
There was some preparation time. So you selected a certain businesses that will be in the first group to be introduced to the system. So they enrolled. Were they high performers like those taxpayers, or it was in general more that the taxpayer discipline have increased more because of the enactment of the new regulation?
Okay. So the approach that we took in terms of selecting the taxpayers at the start was remember we had conducted that survey just to get an indication of the sort of point of sale machines that they were have. Just the feasibility study that we had that you had undertaken, and so that really had a huge put on a lot of weights on how we selected the taxpayers. So it's essentially those who we believed would find it easier to comply and install the electronic fiscal devices. And then we put into that group as first couple of groups as well, the ones in the professional services, because they don't need the sophisticated EFDs. They can just work from the simple app and so forth. So it was more to do with their ability to comply. And then, of course, later on, we looked at the compliance levels and identifying those taxpayers with very low compliance history, and we put them into the loop and started requiring them to comply.
Right. So
yes.
when you talk about the taxpayer behavior and saying that it was challenging to actually get everybody on board, because now for the first time there's a mandate that you have to utilize a solution. Now, what is EFD? EFD itself creates kind of as an enigma. What do I have to buy? A device? Do I have to buy something like that? So taxpayers were kind of wandering around. They were confused about what they need to do in order to comply. So how did you tackle that?
Okay. Yes. So what we did is that it was a lot of training for the taxpayers. And of course, before that, DTI had helped the staff understand. We had to understand what we were, telling the taxpayers to do. And so what we did is that, you translate it to simple everyday language and using our own Samoan language just to explain to them. It's nothing completely new. You just, from the taxpayer's perspective, it doesn't necessarily change. You enter a transaction onto your point of sale machine. It produces a fiscal invoice, and that's it. So, we also put in the messages that it's the vendor's responsibility to go through the whole, the technical side of it, accreditation process and all that fancy, intimidating language. It's not necessarily for the taxpayers to worry about. To them, it's all about finding the right solution. And another thing that we did is that we actually tried to put, on the awareness material that we distributed. So we looked at the products that had already been accredited and also put like a column next to it and say, okay, this is, a solution that applies to retail and industry, defining the industries that could use that particular solution, because I know at sometimes, taxpayers might get obviously confused and say, okay, which one should we go for? So understanding, the solutions that are suited for their business activities was crucial. And we always encourage them, please, before you actually purchase an EFD, come talk to us. To make sure that you're on the right path. The last thing we need is for you. So that was just keeping the line of communication open, and then of course we also relied on DTI's advice as well.
So you went really a distance to actually consult taxpayers about what they need to do and all that. See, in many other countries, this, especially where there's a larger number of taxpayers, this is not a practice that a tax authority would do, but you really actually went to that distance and made it more, I would say, attractive to taxpayers. Hey, you can have this model or this model or that model. Right, but there was also a lot of taxpayers with the existing system that said that they had a system that has served their business for years, and they had to adopt. And there was some issues around there, right? There was some issues where the vendors didn't get around on time. They didn't follow the notices that you were publishing, right? So what kind of challenges you had with those taxpayers who had existing system in place but did not have everything in place by the prescribed time? Because you did prescribe deadlines. So what happened with those taxpayers that didn't meet the deadline and they had some issue with their vendors and they didn't want to change the system or go over a lot of a big expense to actually go and modify or change the whole ERP, for example, but they had to make that adoption. How did you tackle those issues where taxpayers come and say, well, I cannot meet this deadline?
Okay, so because of the climate at that time, it was the pandemic, and coming out of the pandemic, we were actually very flexible. So yes, there are penalties in the legislation, but we were not quick to apply these penalties because we wanted to first make sure that we exhausted all avenues to facilitate compliance rather than start penalizing them. So what happened is that after the deadlines that we had given them, we actually asked them, if you cannot comply for genuine reasons, for example, your vendor was not giving you the support that you needed. So they were actually required to write to the tax authority and submit evidence of, these challenges. So we were actually assessing these requests on a case-by-case basis, right? So out there we were putting, the notice that's, okay, you have to comply, but by this date. But behind the scenes, we were receiving and assessing each individual case based on, because their challenges are unique to each other. So we did allow additional time. There was a lot of extensions afforded to them. But at the same time, we had actually tried to have that communication with their vendors, right? And we emphasized to them that this is a legislative requirement. It was not the taxpayer's choice to have the products accredited. It's a legal requirement now in Samoa, right? So if you want to continue supporting your market in Samoa, you have to come and comply with the tax laws in that country. So the other challenge as well is that taxpayers were saying that the vendors were trying to charge them ridiculously high prices for accrediting the products. And that's when we relied on DTI because, the tax authority itself, we don't have in-house, developers and programmers who would understand, whether
Integration,
the costs were actually reasonable. So what we did is that, we arranged direct meetings with their vendors and say, come talk to our accreditation team and our developers and see, are you really charging, reasonable costs on the taxpayers because this is a compliance requirement.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
it's
just...
So, but did you feel that there was also some collusion between the taxpayer and the vendor to just keep delaying compliance? Was there those? Did you identify some of those cases?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think in a lot of the cases, taxpayers were genuinely struggling because of the delay from the vendors. Parts as well. So what actually helped us in the beginning is that we were telling vendors, okay, this is going to be a requirement for all taxpayers. So it's either you come in and accredit your products and you can continue selling in Samoa, or there's going to be, other consequences as well. This was before the threshold. Yes. So it was good that we had that momentum at the very early stages to really push our vendors to come in and accredit.
Right.
Yeah,
it was difficult timing because even for the vendors, I mean, when you think about just when you remember the COVID-19 period, all of the, even ourselves, we had to transform, we had to work from home. Not coming to the offices, and so I guess the priorities have shifted. So maybe if a vendor had one client in Samoa, maybe that priority was low, and that has actually resulted in that delay, additional delay. But eventually, everybody came on board.
Oh, I think I can speak on. Sorry, one case just came into mind. So this was one of our largest taxpayers in terms of, this company falls in the top 10 in terms of contribution to our tax. So that was one example of where that particular company was the only user of that particular system in Samoa.
Okay.
Right?
Interesting.
So yes, there was a whole delay behind that. And what we did is that we had temporary arrangements for them to comply. Right? So they came to us and said, okay, this is the time frame that our vendor said that they can get things accredited, fully accredited the system. And we looked at it, and it was a period of, say, up to 6 months. So we thought, okay, that's reasonable enough. It would be very unreasonable for us to penalize them when we know that they're only 6 months away from from being fully compliant, right? And so what happens is that we said, hey, there's actually no limitations as to the number of or the different products that you can use. So what we did is on the tablets, installed the web invoicing app on each of those tablets.
Okay.
And we managed to load, their products onto these tablets. The tablets were provided by the taxpayer. So that was evidence that they were willing to comply. It's just that the vendor support was causing the delay. So that was a temporary arrangement. And they were using these tablets just to issue fiscalized invoices while they were waiting for...
So they were like a double entry.
Almost like
that. Okay.
Just
but
in the interim.
But when you see a taxpayer does accept that approach and said, okay, for the time being, I'm going to use the free option that is available, and I'm going to use my accounting system, my ERP. So I'm going to enter all of my sales into accounting system, and then when I see the total, I'm going to translate this total to the teams. And so it's a double entry for me, but for the time being, I'll keep compliant. So that was okay as well, because you saw that there was a reconciliation between the teams, what is being all the taxes that has been recorded and everything that is in their ERP. You can see that there was a match.
Yes.
So that was good. Yeah.
We're very flexible. There was just a lot of different arrangements depending on the taxpayer situation. Let's try and...
But from audit perspective, like when you... Okay, the COVID-19 period was a very specific period. So you had a lot of flexibility. But then later on, when you started actually doing some audits, did you use the system to actually detect underreporting? And have you used the system, the TIMS, have you used it to actually identify taxpayers who were underreporting?
Yes, there has been a lot of cases of underreporting. So what happens is that at the end, we started with VAGST. So, sorry, a bit of backstory on that. It wasn't until about 3 years after implementation that we started using it for income tax, because we needed at least a whole year's worth of data to start looking at income tax. So we started off with VAGST, which is every 2 months. And the process is, at the end of the VAGST period, we would run the tax charged report on TaxCore. And then you compare that to what they were declaring in their tax returns. And there was a lot of discrepancies that were identified, right? So the first few large taxpayers that we had, we just required them to come in and pay the discrepancy, right? But over time, we said, okay, this is becoming, it's habitual, and they're doing this on purpose. And so now we're at a point where we not only require them to come and pay up the discrepancy, but also a penalty for underreporting, because there's a history of it being repetitive. And we're saying, okay, you have to pay.
But for that, you didn't have to go on premise and go over their books. No. You were able just to see the trends, right?
Yes.
From the back office, you were able to see that there are gaps involved, and you were pinpointing the problem.
Yes. So in Samoa, we have a taxpayer population of more than 6,000, right? And our audit team is, I think, just over 10 people. So you can imagine one officer having to look at so many taxpayers. And before TIMS, it took months and months, sometimes more than a year, to close one case.
Wow.
Right? And this is because, mind you, these tax declarations are all self-assessments, right? So, you put a lot of trust, and you have to they have to be really equipped with, have an analytical mind and really catch them and say, okay, something doesn't look right. Right. And it took our audit and investigation team a long time to close each individual audit case, because there was a lot of back and forth in providing evidence. Right. Now, TIMS, our staff don't need to go out and try to look. The evidence is right there. Right. So now the responsibility falls on the taxpayer to come and explain this discrepancy. Right. Otherwise, whatever is captured on TaxCore, that's it. So that is just a significant, just, how would I say, just making our work a lot easier for the tax administration. And you're able to close cases a lot faster now. You got the evidence. Even if they don't file their tax returns, you've got the data there, right? And that's just also linking to another advantage or another benefit that we picked up from the use of TIMS. So before, the practice is that if a taxpayer does not file their tax declaration over a long period of time, our enforcement team would actually have to try and make what we call default assessments, right? So in the absence of them filing the tax declarations, they are now compared to other businesses with a similar size, similar nature, their competitors.
And say maybe
and have like a default
geographical
assessment.
location
Yes,
and all
just
that.
to sort of have that in
Comparison.
place there. Yes, in there. With TIMS, there's no need for that. Even if they don't declare the tax returns, because you've got that data transmitted directly from the source as soon as they fiscalize the transaction. Yeah, so the data is already here, and you can already make calculations on their tax liability, and start applying the penalties on it.
But from our research, the only way you can actually cheat the system is not registering a transaction, right? Did you had any other experience? Like, did you see that somebody was trying to distribute fraudulent receipts, like receipts with a QR code that looks like a fiscal, but they are not verifiable? Did anybody try that?
Yes, we did have. Yes, the QR code was coming out in like just some weird looking characters. Yeah, and so we picked up on that quickly, and we reported it. And,
okay.
Yeah.
So you were able to detect it immediately.
Yes.
But so when you see, like from the back office, your enforcement officers, they see some gaps. They see that there's falling trends, like, and you expect that business to be operating at that particular time at a highest highest level. So do you actually go on the field and actually try to catch them, or what they call the behave like a mystery customer, right? Yes. You come in and try to purchase something and to be a witness of not registering transactions. Do you have those kind of cases?
Yes, we sent out our staff and trained them. And we always reminded them that it's very important to capture the evidence to make it a lot easier for us when we apply enforcement actions. Right. So we did do that, a lot of field visits to sort of capture. But it wasn't just the staff. We actually had members of the general public reporting to us and saying, I went to this store, I know they're supposed to give me a fiscal invoice, but I got nothing instead. So we actually did have some cases where it was the consumers reporting to us.
Oh, that's great.
Yes. It was really good to see that, even the general public were coming on board, to just learn to appreciate the benefits of.
And they were able to identify easily what is fiscal and what is non-fiscal.
Yes.
Just from the
because
from the scanning of the receipt itself.
Yes. Yeah. Because we had those TV ads on as well, just to create awareness for them. So yes.
Did you try to run any kind of awards, to give like a whistleblower awards or something like that?
We did though, but however, because us being the tax authority, there were concerns around conflict of interest as to who we were buying the prizes from. So that's why up until now we're still trying to figure out how we would go about in doing that compliance.
Okay, so you're interested to empower public more in future to do the actually that to bring that evidence, necessary evidence for the enforcement to do their job. Great.
Yeah, because over time as well, we're a small tax administration, so over time, of course, businesses would start to recognize us, and they know us. They know we work at the tax administration.
Right.
Yes. So I go into a store and they're like, "Oh, it's the TIMS lead." So, and then
So when we look at across all of the business sectors, so you have your retailers, hospitality sector, hotels, restaurants, you have wholesalers, you have different categories of businesses. Do you see any technical disadvantages for all of them coming on board? Did anybody come up with a reason, say that I cannot comply? What was the excuse for anybody not to comply with the team's regulation, and that you actually had to give out exemption. Did you give any exemptions?
No, no,
No.
exemptions.
Okay.
No. Otherwise, it would defeat the purpose of
Exactly.
of the system if we had exemptions. So
Yeah.
no, there's not an industry that's exempt from
No
from
industry
having
is
to,
exempted.
No, from
Okay.
having to comply.
Just the onboarding process
Yes.
is still ongoing, or?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
ongoing.
Okay.
So as of now, I mean, we only have that threshold of businesses above 200,000 who are now required to comply. And so we constantly run the data to identify when new taxpayers have exceeded that threshold, and then we onboard them. But going back to, we did have some cases where for wholesalers, their excuse was their delivery trucks can't, there's not a solution available for the delivery trucks. Yes, they were saying that, there were some blind spots in some rural areas around the island where they couldn't issue the fiscal invoice.
Oh, there was no internet available.
Yeah, that's what their excuse was.
Okay.
I'm talking about,
Right.
from the taxpayer's perspective as well. It was mainly on the wholesalers with their deliveries, right? So we did allow them more time. But then once we saw that there were accredited solutions that they could use, then we
Even
said,
in the offline?
Yes. Then we said, okay, you really have to comply.
Yeah, you have to
And
find a
yes,
solution.
Yes.
Okay.
And at one point you got to put your foot down as well.
Right.
And we were very flexible considering the, just the economic situation.
Right.
But as time passed, we know that okay, you can actually comply. It's just that you're not making the effort to.
Right. So when you're now into how many? I mean, we are 6 years.
Yes, going on to 6 years.
6
now.
years.
Yeah.
So 6 years now. I mean, with this experience you have now, and thinking back, what you would do better? Like, would you still be compassionate to all of the issues that you've been facing, because you had a lot of questions from taxpayers, this and that, power outages, internet outages, and all these things. Would you stick by the letter of the law, or you would still go and answer every single question that you? How would you actually? Would you do anything different?
Okay, this is just my opinion in the context of the Samoan taxpayers' environments, is that I wouldn't do anything different, right? And that's because, as the tax authority, when you're introducing fiscalization to a small island nation that was highly, cash basis and all that, culture has a lot to, you have to really factor in the culture of our taxpayers, because that really influences their mindset and their perspective of things, right? And so I knew at the time that if we followed the law to, strictly, there would be a lot of resistance, and it would actually cost us as well for implementation, right? So to me at the time, considering that we were also implementing it in the middle of a pandemic, we had to really make the efforts to facilitate compliance. So I honestly think that we would have taken the same approach, and be very flexible where we needed to, and identify. I guess that's the advantage of a small island countries, that you do understand your taxpayers, so you can sort of have that understanding as well as to who's deliberately trying to not to comply and who's genuinely struggling to comply. You can make those.
So you have a lot of patience. Yes. You're getting around that, but your ultimate goal is, I suppose, that eventually all of the taxpayers will be compliant.
Yes.
And then that declarations will flow automatically.
Yes. Yeah.
And that at one point, at the end of the period, tax filing period, you would actually present a bill to the taxpayer and saying that, well, these are all your sales, these are all your purchases. Do you have anything more to add? Because you cannot deduct, but you can add. Is this something where you want to go? You want to accomplish this eventually? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. I see.
Oh, and another thing that I think is worth mentioning is that we also have to look at the bigger picture, right? And we have this, how would you say, like sort of just risk appetite with the tax authority back in Samoa, where we try to encourage public-private relationship, right? So when we're implementing this fiscalization project, you got to make sure that it aligns as well with the high-level, commitments that government is making as well. So it's, public perception as well is very important. So that really influences well the timing of implementation for us. Yeah.
Right. So, from like now after 6 years of implementation and working, you have a role in the regulation as a system manager, I would say. So you are actually exposing this system, the TIMS, to the public, to the taxpayer population, and they depend on this connectivity, I would say, in order to remain compliant. But you have that option that you say that, okay, well, my system is up, sometimes it's down, but you have the fallback, right? You have the offline mode,
Yes.
where you can still operate, even if I have an issue in my data center, right? There is the time to recovery, it happened. It happened, right? We had some elementary, there was a flood,
Yes.
there was the different
Yes.
kind of, even the power outages
Yeah.
in the data center,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But still the taxpayers were able to continue working normally. At those times when the system wasn't available, did you feel any pressure from taxpayers? Like, I'm sure that there are some who are just dependent on the online solution, right? They don't have any, those that are like a
Yes.
consult service companies.
Yes.
So they're expecting feedback from the ministry when there is an invoice they are posting online, and if that communication is not established, they're panicking.
Yes. Yes, we have that a
Okay.
lot because a large number of taxpayers actually use the web invoicing or the free POS apps. So it's one of those things where, like for example, if it's the weekend, we would find out from the taxpayer when something is up, and then we have the team from DTI on board. So we've had a lot of those cases. However, again, it's all about the timing. And now we are, creating awareness and encouraging taxpayers to have that offline mode available to them, right? Because we don't want the reliability on the internet connection to cause disruption to their business operations in the events because internet and power outages in Samoa is very common. And we always make that clear upfront. So we were very honest with the taxpayers upfront. And that's another thing that's very important as well, is that you have to be very honest with taxpayers and say, okay, you are going to encounter these problems, which is why we encourage you, please have
A backup.
yes, the backup.
What future brings? Like I mentioned about the ultimate goal, to have all taxpayers on board and to have all of their sales and purchases
Yes.
in one spot. So they already are used to log into the taxpayer admin portal. They can see their sales, their purchases. They have also in their ERP systems or the POS systems, but they can also look at the Teams. They can log into Teams and see their, eventually when all taxpayers are on board, is the next step to have the online or automatic pre-filled declaration.
Yes, that's
pre-filled.
exactly where
That's the ultimate goal.
Yes. So at the moment, we are actually going through what we call a business transformation project. So we are looking to either upgrade or replace our revenue management system. And one of the key things that we put in there as a requirement for our revenue system is the integration between the new system, whatever it may be, and TaxCore, because we want to have that pre-filled fields as well, because we want to automate as much as possible and reduce the risk of human error, right? So we want to eliminate the need for, because the current process is we wait for the self-assist returns, then they come in, and then our staff have to post each individual return onto the system. We want to eliminate all that in between the manual work and have the systems talk to each other. So TaxCore would be feeding the information straight from the source through to the revenue system. the tax administration system.
So you're in a much better position now.
Refilled.
You know exactly what to request from the vendor of
Yes.
the ITAS, right? Of the
Yes, yeah.
main solution,
Yes.
because you want to utilize the data that you're collecting now.
Yes. Yeah.
And you have a lot of data.
It is.
Do you know how many
Yes.
receipts you have?
Well,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah,
Yes.
but yeah.
Yeah. So we want to free up the staff from having to do that manual work, and for them to focus more on value-added work. You know,
Right.
just analyzing the data and identifying these case studies that they can look at.
So the future is in pre-filing,
Yes.
maybe some automated analytics, right?
Yes.
You want to have those 10 or more auditors, enforcement officers be even more powerful than today,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
With these new tools that are coming
Yes.
in.
Yeah.
Great. Teresa, it's been a wonderful journey for this past 6 years,
Yes.
and we have supported your ministry throughout this all this time, and we are looking forward to the future and to get to the point where you want to be in being maybe one of the first world's fully automated tax administration.
That's
But it's right there.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
everybody's challenge is actually to collect the good data. You have the good data. Now you have to
Yes.
have
Yeah.
everything, all the other things that are
Yes. And
maybe
please.
expensive,
Yes.
but worth.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us here today and for coming to Serbia. So we look forward to host you on many of our workshops that we have prepared for you.
Oh,
And
yes. Thank you.
thank you for being
For
such a
having me.
wonderful partner.
Thank you.